choose. And again, the most powerful and transforming training aids you will own in your career are those, right? Just like with Anthony, those golf clubs will teach you how to swing. If they are misfit, they are going to teach you how to swing incorrectly. Does that make sense?
Is that Tess?
No, it looks like her though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is that helping player development? Again, is the big question. Is that helping long-term player development? Are clubs, or is that something we're trying to overcome, or is it actually aiding us and helping us in the direction we're trying to go? Right? I think the majority of the time it's probably hurting a lot of our students, especially our junior students, right where we need them to be able to grow and be able to move in a positive direction. Right? How many times do you get the father that wants to cut his clubs off for the junior? Even though their lie angles are going to be way too upright and they're going to be D6s and everything else, right?
So, way too heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
Along the same lines of what he's saying is that improperly fit golf clubs, no matter how good the golfer is, if his clubs don't fit him, you have established a ceiling to which that player will never develop beyond. His clubs will inhibit his growth as a golfer. So our goal as fitters and his goal as an instructor are to let both of them go so that we take the clubs out of the equation and we allow his dedication to the game and his dedication to practice and skill level improvement to continue to rise. We take the clubs or build the clubs so that they never inhibit his game. We try to take the clubs completely out of the equation. If I've got a 160-yard shot, I reach in and get my 160-yard club, and I don't care what number's on the bottom of that club. This is the club I hit 160 yards. For older golfers, sometimes it's really hard to get that macho crap out of their heads because Charlie's hitting a 6-iron, and I'm having to hit a 4-iron the same distance. Who cares? Who cares? You know, the scorecard only says how many it took you to get there, not how it took you to get there. So, Keith?
Yeah, this is to Eric. As a fitter, if someone, we see a swing like Steve here. All right. Now, we got a club up there that made a club for him, went through different clubs that he actually swung one of them.
Keith, you're going to have to speak louder because I can't hear your question.
He swung one.
As a fitter, sending a student to a teacher, it's my belief that if they have a club in the bag that is totally, completely ill-fit, it's going to hurt your job also.
Without question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So like we did with Steve, we went through the process but got something that was close. And so my idea about that is that that club would be better for him to learn with you to start with, and we can tweak it as he gets better.
I would agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so what I'm trying to teach some of the club pros in my area is just exactly that. A couple of them tell me that, oh no, I can teach them with what they got in their bag, the off-the-rack clubs. And I'm saying, no, you cannot. And that when we send someone to you, that we should at least try to have maybe a couple of irons in the bag that we have done like we did with Steve yesterday that is a better fit, a closer. And then as he practices and does stuff, then we can tweak that club together, you and me, okay? Because we would be talking back and forth, you know, to get him in that correct club for his continuation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would agree 100%. Developing the tempo program for the PGA, one of the things that I brought up is they said, when should the equipment fitting actually be done? Before or after?
Do you do that like with Jerry, with you guys? That's what y'all do?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you probably don't do an entire set because you're working with the people and stuff, and so if you don't do an entire set and you're doing something like 3 or 4 clubs, I think that would be helpful for all of us to know which ones. And I know every teacher is a little bit different. Some teachers may say, I want a 6, 8, and 9 iron. Some may say, I want a 5, 7, and
I would say there are perfect, it's a great question. I mean, to me, I agree with Keith 100% that you got to do some sort of even if it's for a beginner that's never played, you got to do some sort of at least a static measurement for where we're going to be. You know, the 5'1" lady cannot play or cannot learn the game with her 6'4" husbands. You know, 3-degree uprights, Scotch blade D6 S300 irons with grips that have turned to coal, right? I mean, they can't. So you got to do some sort of a cursory fitting at the first, but then fine tune as you go. So my feeling is that is it before or after the instruction program? And I would say both, and every day in between that as well. The second part of that question, Keith, is Jerry and I are in a little bit of an unusual situation because we're in a resort setting. So often I'll get students that come to me and they're there for a week or 3 days or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, but I don't get to repeat with them until maybe a couple of years later when they come back down to see it. So in a perfect world, yes. To me, I think the shorter irons and obviously either the driver or the fairway club that they're hitting off the tee, which probably shouldn't be the driver most of the time in my opinion.
Most of our fittings are done with 6 irons or 7 irons and 9s or wedges. Most of our, and of course, drivers.
Right in there, yeah.
You know, so that gives you an idea of where we're at. But basically, a 6 or 7 and a 9 or a wedge and the driver. And those 3 clubs, as you all well know, give you pretty well the parameters what you have to do with the rest of the clubs. But if we can get them zeroed in on either their 6, their 7, or their 9, or then we know where we can build from there.
Sure.
But they've got to have a zero place.
Right. And I think that's a great question. Yeah, Bill.
So that brings up the question. So that brings up the question in my mind, are we going to fit to this guy's physical attributes?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think we are. We have to, so that we can provide a golf club that's good for his physical attributes that he can go to you and get taught by.
I think the answer is yes in general, but
Yeah.
I think it does go back to students' goals, like Anthony Miko's.
Given that the goals are, to be a better player.
Sure. But, I mean, again, is it short-term, is it long-term perspectives and things? I think those questions play a role. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with that in general, yes.
Well, that's kind of a different slant than most of us think about, I think.
Well, if you're not working with a swing instructor, you're only talking about half of the instruction. You're talking about the fitting aspect as opposed to this. Eric and I operate on the basis of this. We fit for now with an eye toward the future, because I know that if they're going to apply what he's giving them as swing improvements, then the equipment that I fit him for today is not going to fit him 6 months from now, if he is applying those swing mechanic improvements. So I have to look at it from the fitting standpoint, how can I keep him where he's at and allow him to move forward with the same equipment? If I've got a kid that's 14 years old, and he measures to a standard 38-inch 5-iron, for instance, and we get all the numbers just right and everything, the chances are I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to make it a little different on the lie. I may make it a 1/4 of an inch longer because I know this kid's dad's 6'7". And in 6 months he's going to grow 2 inches. Why would I put him in equipment that's going to hinder him and force him to do one of these numbers, in order to be able to hit the club the same way 6 months from now? And we see this a lot. We get a lot of the national junior teams in where these kids, we just had the Junior Ryder Cup Academy, and we had 23 one time and 47 another, or something like that. And these kids are phenomenally gifted golfers, and yet they were all juniors and seniors in high school, and with rare exception, they still had a lot of growth to go. Physical growth, physical development, as well as height growth. You can't fit them at 4'11", because in 6 months they're going to be, 5'9". You've just got to take those things into consideration. So you fit now with an eye toward expansion and improvement.
By the way, out of those nearly 70 juniors from across the country, and these were the elite players that I've seen, I mean, as a body, they were extremely talented. Out of those nearly 70 players, how many would you have guessed would have been fit for their putters?
5.
It was 7, yeah. About 10%. Now that to me is tragic. That to me is absolutely tragic. Got aspiring players who have paid the price, who have sacrificed to be where they want to be, and then I've got this 5'2" girl. I remember specifically 5'2" girl putting with a 35.5" putter. It just about was. It just about was.
Yeah, almost first with a broomstick.
Right.
But, yeah, and out of these 60 golfers that we had, the best, we had guys who were popping at 300 yards plus. Yeah. I mean, at every level of golfing abilities. And the best golfer was a 4'11" girl.
Carrico.
She couldn't hit it as far, but she never missed a fairway and she never missed a green.
It's Rico.
Little old tiny.
Asian girl, yeah.
You sit there and watch her say, "You're really a boring golfer." Straight down the middle every time.
And she was one of the ones that was fit for run, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.